Nigeria's Bureau of Statistics is set to release the fourth quarter and full-year gross domestic product figures for the year 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic pushed Africa's largest economy into recession in 2020 after GDP contracted by 6.1% in the second quarter and 3.6% in the third. Arise business analyst Chika Bono is joining us now to discuss these headlines. Chika, you're very welcome.
How are you today?
I'm fine, sir. Glad to have you. The debts, there's been some talk of the, in fact, we have some tweets from Segun Onigbinde, Olusegun Onigbinde, the co-founder of Budget, the advocacy group, saying that, because there's a 2-year moratorium, and he says, the 30-year extension, the amortization is going to essentially put a debt burden on the next administration in 2023. I would love to hear your thoughts, Chika.
Okay, let me set some tones here.
Yes.
Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria, in addition to its monetary policy function, is a banker to the federal government.
Yes, correct.
In all respects, all the banking work, as you and me know that our commercial banks do for us, is something that the Central Bank does for, the federal government. More so even with the TSAs happening, that everything now is, moved to Central Bank. And so just like any other bank customer,
yes,
you will have times where your revenues do come short of your expenditure.
Yes.
And in that case, you will expect to go to your bank to say, cover me until my revenues come in so that I can make my expenditures.
Yes.
Expenditures usually come ahead of sometimes revenues.
Correct, yes.
And so it's not surprising, therefore, that a country will go to central bank and run overdrafts. A lot of people sometimes call it ways and means.
And means, yes.
Now, so that's the tone. That's the background. And when done properly, the issues of is not just arbitrary. The federal government should not just use the central bank of a country as a piggy bank.
Right.
Where when you just give me money, So there's some tones, there's some boundaries set there. Usually for Nigeria, for example, it says it shouldn't be more than 5% of the revenues.
Correct, yes.
Of your previous year.
Previous year, yes.
And then because of its nature also, it's supposed to be short term to be cleared at the end of each accounting or period, usually at the end of the year.
Yes.
That's the way it's supposed to run. Now, I've packed that one way. Now, this government came into power in 2015. Remember what came in immediately, the onset of recession.
Right.
With low oil prices. So, and they had to run an expansionist, government to meet their,
obligations.
Yes. And political campaign promises. And so, he had to expand money. And oil revenues were in shortfall. And therefore, what will happen is this, that ordinarily, what will happen is that there must be a structured way to finance your budget, which means that you go to a conventional domestic market and borrow, or international markets to borrow bonds and other borrowings,
yes,
or concessional borrowings to fund your budget. But that has not been the case, really. The case has been that the shortfall that we've had, the central bank has, covered the government. And so the accumulation of that excesses or drawdowns or shortfalls has been, I'm told, about 10 trillion, as you talked about in your rundown.
Yes. And
in our discussion with the IMF, when we were trying to draw down the loan, they gave us some conditions. One of the conditions is, that central bank should not be a piggy bank, for the federal government of Nigeria.
Yes.
And therefore must clean up its books. And those loans must be, clean up and then, package and then put in such of an instrument. In this case, the federal government of Nigeria said, is detaining the tunes and said, we want to spread it over 30 years.
Yes.
And then we give us 2 years moratorium.
Yes.
This is a borrower now, detaining the terms of the borrowing,
yes,
as the case may be.
Yes.
But that's basically the nature of the relationship between the Central Bank of Nigeria and the federal government of Nigeria. And so, immediately, we have IMF talks about our obligation now is about 49 trillion. Our public debt station now. Now, if we add that on top of what we have now, the 10 trillion, you can imagine where we are.
Yes.
And from the 25%, loan to GDP, debt to GDP ratio that we have now,
yes,
it's going to balloon to almost 40%. And of course, the servicing the debt is going to be a major issue. It's going to cost the government a lot to service those debts. And of course, what it also means is the fact that any 2 years moratorium brings it down to 2023.
Yes.
And is the onset of another election and another government. And that's basically what the tweeters have said.
Yes.
That it's going to be a burden on whoever is coming.
Chika, thank you so much for the explanation there. It's very fascinating to see how that's going to work out. The ports, something you've talked about times without number on this show. Sam Hart of Abia States, his tweets, I mean, I don't know if I should be asking you this again, but yeah, that's the tweet there. And he took a picture clearing your container tin can. It's the ghetto, been to Lagos twice, negotiated with 3 different trailer drivers. They drop you off higher offers, and so on and so forth. Chika, is the latest installment in this port matter.
The port of any country is like the gateway to trade. That's where, the imported goods come in and the imported goods go out from. And for an import-dependent country like ours, what happens at the port therefore affects the whole economy. Not surprisingly, remember that trade is actually the number 2 contributor to our GDP.
Yes.
The figures are going to come out later today. We hope, let's see. Trade has been not performing very well. Let's see what happens.
Yes.
But I've spoken so much about ports in this program. And I when I use this word, people say that I am talking about, serious countries worry about what happens in their port.
Yes.
Now, we can't be talking about diversification of the revenues away from oil, and then our ports are in a mess. And I don't know whether we have given up. The vice president had his own committee that came, did a flyby and fly, and nothing's happened after almost 2 years. Now, Lagos State government has taken over again. And so we are told, when we speak to the clearing agents, that a lot of the equipment there that are supposed to aid transparency and ease of clearing of goods are not working. A lot of the scanners are not working. At least, when we talked about it some time ago, the Central Bank of Nigeria actually went and donated 4 scanners to help in the screening of goods. And when you don't have automation and you have human intervention, you can imagine the discretionary issues involved. And human beings will introduce themselves into the clearing process. And so the country is bleeding when individuals are getting fatter. And that's what's happening.
It's happening right now. Yeah.
I mean, let's call a spade a spade. That's what's happening. The port is the preferred posting area for a lot of the custom people. And I hear that a lot of people travel to their pastors and their imams and whatever to make sure they're posted to the ports. You ask why. It's because of the pecuniary interests, the benefits. So the nation is suffering. Our economy is suffering, whether individuals are profiting. And I'm saying that, my problem is that there's nobody to run to. The Minister for Finance is supposed to be interested. The Minister of Trade is supposed to be interested. The VP is supposed to be, aligned with the economy, is supposed to be interested. And really, nobody's, focusing on that. And it's a major issue for me, that the kind of passion and drive, I thought would have, like we did in those days, when they had the cement armada, and there was emergency declared on the ports. That's the kind of emergency we're supposed to declare. It's all over the press. Financial press, Bloomberg, Financial Times, everybody knows about the fear of Nigerian port system. And I think we should take it very seriously.
Arise business analyst Chika Nbono, thank you so much for joining us, Chika. I appreciate your insights.